Oftentimes for me, God does not speak to me in this loud, like vibrant voice. When God speaks to me, it's typically in a still small voice. It's very small, very still, but it's not just one time. For me, it's probably 3 to 4 weeks of hearing his voice. You know, he'll prompt me, I'll hear it in the morning, I'll hear it at night. I'll be in the shower, I'll be driving, or maybe when I first get up, or when I'm looking on something on my phone. And so over the last 3 or 4 weeks, really God has been driving home this idea that there are a lot of people in our church that are struggling financially. COVID did a huge number on us. Many of you have lost your job. And what I want to do is help get you to a place where you can get the help that you need and prepare your life, set your life up for so that you're most blessed. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about stewardship, money, resources, stuff. And so what I want to do is I want to give you 3 foundational truths about resources, stewardship. And then I want to give you over the last 28 years, I've been giving. And over the last 20 years, God has really downloaded some incredible principles in my life, and I want to share them with you. So before we get going, let me just say this to you. I want to give you 3 secrets, if you're taking notes, 3 secrets on stewardship. That's the title of the message, 3 secrets on stewardship. How many of you know today, let's be honest, how many know there ain't quite any problems like money problems? Come on, somebody. I remember when April and I were first married, we moved to Atlanta, Georgia. And we were making combined income, $25,000 a year, combined income. We had 1 kid at the time. We were obviously living paycheck to paycheck. And in fact, we were fighting like cats and dogs. We were arguing, we were mad, we were irritated at each other. I mean, Wednesday night we would go to church and we couldn't even stop at Chick-fil-A on the way. And in those days, back then, if you brought your bulletin to Chick-fil-A, remember those days? They gave you a free chicken sandwich if you got the side and the drink. We couldn't even afford the free chicken sandwich. We were poor. We were arguing and fighting, and we were mad, and we were broke. But even in that season, we were trying to apply these principles, even though there was tension and even though there was stress. Statistics tell us that 1 in 4 Americans are fretting over finances on a daily basis, where our thoughts are there. How many of you remember the great theologian in 1990 who made this theological statement? My mind on my money and my money on my mind. Come on, anybody remember that great theologian? His name was Snoop Dogg. Come on, somebody. I knew I got sex in last series. I'm getting Snoop Dogg in this series. But it's the truth. It's the truth. And how you handle your resources matter. And this is the central theme of this message. It's a passion of mine. It's a journey. I did not grow up in a home with a lot of money. My parents were in debt. I was on an airplane 1 time before the age of 18. We didn't know vacations. We didn't have resources. We had nothing. And I made it a point as I got to become an adult that I want to get a hold of money. God has some centered resources. God has the resources that will center us on Him and do money God's way. C.S. Lewis said this. He said this, that if a person gets his attitude towards money straight, it will straighten out almost every other area of their life. And that's why once a year, and only once a year, we don't talk about finances and we don't talk about resources. In fact, let me just say this to you, so you know, the church does not need your money. You're like, pastors shouldn't say that. We don't. In January, we had the largest month we've ever had in the history of 9 years of our church. The largest, like largest. And I'll be honest with you, February is really close to what January was. We have 3 months of savings, church savings in the account for anything that happens. Just a few months ago, we had a goal of $100,000, and because of one more check that came in yesterday, we're over $108,000 for the Church I See offering. Listen, we don't need your money. This message has been prepared for a while. I'm not trying to tell you we need something from you. God wants to give something to you. I grew up in a church where anytime the pastor talked about money, it was because they needed money. We're good. We're good. But you need to be blessed. You are missing out on some blessings in your life that God wants to give to you. In fact, let me just say this to you. Jesus talked about this. In fact, two of the topics that Jesus talked about that we don't give a lot of attention to is when Jesus was talking, he talked the most as he walked this planet on two topics, and they'll surprise you. One won't because we're talking about it today, but it was money and hell. More than heaven, more than salvation, more than giving, it was money and hell. In fact, Jesus said this in Matthew chapter 6, out of Jesus' own mouth, for where your resources, your money, your treasure, your stuff, your dinero, for wherever your stuff is, that's where your heart will be also. I wrote it down this way, that money is the great indicator of the affections of our hearts. It's money, it's the great indicator. Money, your bank account what your bank account says, your review, monthly review, what it says reveals where your heart is. In fact, if you're taking notes, write this down somewhere. Is our payments reveal our priorities. Our payments reveal our priorities. So show me your credit card statement and I'll show you what you're passionate about. Show me your Venmo and I'll show you your values. Well, I really love Jesus and I really want to serve Jesus and I really believe in Jesus. Well, your bank account shows that you really love Starbucks and you really love Amazon. No, but Jesus has my heart. Jesus has my heart. Jesus has my heart. Well, it sure looks like Target has your heart. Here's the truth. Many of us in this room, we don't know how to handle our finances. And we certainly don't know how to handle it with care. And we're all over the place and we don't know what up and down and left and right. Many of you don't know where your money's going and you look at the end of the month and you go, I don't even know how we got here. I thought I made X amount of dollars, but there's no money in my bank account. And I thought Ace Ventura could teach us a little bit where some of our finances are. Check this out. Come on, somebody. But that's how some of y'all's finances look. You're just willy-nilly your way through life, and it's just not good. And let me show you what I think are three foundational truths about finances, and then let me give you what I call the three secret sauces that have helped April and I get to where we are. So if you're taking notes, write this down. Number one, you got to get this. In fact, this is the biggest thing you're going to hear all day, is you must understand that God is the owner. That everything you have comes from God. He owns it all. Yes, he owns a cattle on 1,000 hills, but he owns everything. He owns everything. Psalm 24 verse 1 tells us that God owns it all. Listen to this. It says that the earth, it's the Lord's. It ain't yours, it's his. And everything in it is his, the world and all who live in it. We're not the owner. In America, the American way is, I own it. I worked hard. I got it. It's my company. It's my 401k. It's my money. It's my car. It's my house. And the truth is, the only reason why you have what it is that you have is because the goodness and graciousness of God Almighty has given you what you have. He's the owner. He owns it all. Well, I just don't have a lot. It very well could be the reason why you don't have a lot is because God can't trust you with a lot. God gives to people he knows will steward what he has the right way. Deuteronomy says this. Listen to this verse. It says, but remember, because let's just be honest, it's really hard to not remember. But remember the Lord your God in all of your spending and all of your this and all of this. Remember, the only reason why you have it is God. And by the way, God's great with you getting the upgrade in your house. God's good with you getting the boat. God's good with you going on the Europe trip. God's not against it. God wants to bless his kids. But in the middle of all of his blessing, God says, but just remember me. It's because of me that you have what you have. For it is him, God, who gives you the ability to produce the wealth. God gave you the ability. God gave you the skill. God gave it to you. It is God's. He is the owner. And listen to me, while he's the owner, number two, you must get that we are the stewards. We're the managers. We're the caretakers of everything that the owner owns. It's our job to steward the things that he's given to us. And we steward them according to the owner's request. Now, I've got a 20-year-old and two 13-year-olds. And as April and I were raising all three of them, there was always several points in the raising where we would have to remind these teenagers, this house is not yours. It's mine. I own it. You just live in it. I'm gonna go to my room. No, you're going to my other room. I'm going to bed. No, you're going to my other bed. It's mine. No, nothing yours. It's mine. I own it. I work for it. I pay for it. It's mine. I own it. I worked hard. I got the sweat equity. It's me. And every one of us got to teach our teenagers that. Here's the truth. Many of us in church today, we have teenager syndrome. That we're just like our teenagers. That we look at our life and go, this is my home, my car, my money, my company, my resources, my this. And God's looking at us going, homeboy, chica, it's mine. I own it. But if you don't steward it well, those blessings will stop. Because I will only give to those that steward well. 1 Corinthians says this. Listen to this beautiful verse. This is how one should regard. In fact, let me just sum it up. This is what life is all about. This is the only thing that matters in life, to serve people. That's why on Saturdays once a month we have Haven of Hope. And we serve out here. Hundreds of families come. And they come and they get rice and beans and bed mattresses and clothing. And why? That's why we're going to missions. And that's why we serve in sports ministry. Why? Because the only thing that matters in this life is to serve other people. And that's the left hand. But the right hand is actually to be a steward and be faithful to what he's already given to us. So when you and I stand before the Lord one day, guess what we're going to give an account for? How we served and how we stewarded. And how you serve and how you steward is the only thing that matters. In fact, when God sees you be a good steward, it's in that moment that he disperses his blessings, his ownership on those who have the ability to handle what it is that they've already received. God is the owner. We are the steward. And third and finally, and this is a word for Wellspring, is that when we understand stewardship of our little, it actually determines how we can handle a lot. There is nothing wrong. Let me just help you. Okay, I don't know what you've heard from a TV preacher or the church you grew up in. There is nothing wrong with you praying that God would give you more. There is nothing wrong about that. In fact, he's a giver. In fact, James, the book of James says that he gives so much that if you need something, he gives them out liberally. He's a giver. It's who he is. It's what he does. He wants to give. But God will not give to those who have not understood the principle of the little. To do with the little what it is that you hope that God will give you when you give a lot, when you get a lot. We've missed the principle. In our chasing of more, we've missed the principle of doing and being faithful with what we have. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me? Luke 16 says this. Whoever can be trusted with very little. Now, some of y'all looking at your bank account and going, oh my goodness, my bank account's in the Bible. Because I got very little. I mean, I get paid and my bank account's already in the red. How'd that happen? I just got paid. Whoever can be trusted with the little bit they have, with the $5, the $10, the $100, can also be trusted with a lot. Do you see that? Those who have a little and they're trustworthy can also be trustworthy with a lot. And whoever is dishonest with a little, those people are gonna waste away God's blessings. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, that's money. If you've not been good at handling worldly wealth, how in the world will God give you opportunities to have true riches? True riches. You remember when you grew up and you were at Thanksgiving and you were a 10-year-old and you had Thanksgiving, and I had younger kids, and so I remember the days where I had younger kids, and I would always give my kids this plate. You know what's special about this plate? It's a suction cup. It can't move. So no matter how many I put peas and carrots and little ham and cheese, they can't move the plate, nor can they break the plate. They can't break it. And I would leave them in this plate until they realize that this plate does not go on the floor. And if this plate goes on the floor, they're gonna lose their food and they're gonna lose their privileges. But at some point in our raising of our kids, they would get upgraded, come on, to the plastic plate. And the plastic plate isn't much different than this plate, other than this plate can move. It's different. So I can take this plate and I can throw it, and that plate's not gonna break. It can go wherever it needs to go. The plate will not break. There always comes a point when you turn 16 or 17, I remember at Thanksgiving, when I got upgraded, come on, to the adult table. And I got to get, not the sticky plate, suction plate, or the plastic plate, come on, I got grandma's fine china. But you ain't gonna get the fine china until you're trustworthy with the suction plate and the plastic plate. Why? Because if I give you the fine china, I don't want to give it to you and know that you'll break it. And then you've broken grandma's fine china. And if it's a suction plate, it's okay. It's a plastic plate, it's okay, but my goodness, grandma's fine china is all over the place. Here's the truth, listen to me, do not miss this. Some of you are spiritually and financially still eating off the suction table because God can't trust you with anything else. But you're eating off of it and you're going, God bless me, God bless me, God bless me. And God says, I want to bless you, I want to bless you, but I can't trust you. So I need you to keep eating off the suction plate until I can trust you. Because if I give you something premature, you'll break it and it'll be all over the floor. Write this down somewhere. How you handle something is how you'll handle everything. Another way of saying this is how you handle little is how you'll handle much. Now listen to me, church. I want you as your pastor to be entrusted with so much right now. I want God to give you more finances and more resources. I want him to give you more money and give you the promotion. I want God to do that. So let me take a few minutes to help prepare you to steward your resources so that your life is in a position so that God is a God who can bless you because you're being a good vessel and steward. Are you hearing me? Amen. So let me give you secrets, what I believe are secrets of good stewardship. Secrets of good stewardship. Number one is this, if you're taking notes, write this down, is you must first realize you've got to spend wisely. I realize that there are a few of us in church this weekend, you don't have a lot of money. Maybe you're living on government assistance, or maybe you've got food stamps, maybe you've been without a job for a while, and we want to help you and serve you. But for the vast majority of us in church this weekend, we don't have an income problem. We have a spending problem. For most of us in this room, we may not make enough to have all of our wants, but for most of us in this room, we make enough to have all of our needs. But what we do is we just swipe and swipe and swipe and swipe. In a single year, Americans in total spend $1 billion a year on lottery tickets. $100 billion on lottery tickets. Every year, men spend $2,327 per year on coffee. Well, I love Jesus. Well, it looks like you love Starbucks a little more than Jesus. While women spend $2,078. In total, Americans spend $2 billion on unused gym membership. Americans spend this blew me away. Americans spend $15 billion, with a B, billion dollars a year on bank fees. That's that $35 NSF fee. It adds up. On average, Americans spend $1 billion on crystals to keep them calm. Can I tell you what'll keep you calm? Get out of friggin' debt. That'll keep you calm. That'll fix some problems. Get out of debt. Save some money. Users are spending $380 billion worldwide on in-app purchases. And worst of all, talk about an absolute waste. Cat owners. On average, cat owners are spending $261.40 precious dollars on stupid, moronic animals each month, which translates to $3,316.80 annually on a dumb little animal, cats. Now, some of you are laughing, and cat owners, you are absolutely offended and mad, and you're leaving the church because of it, because you think that is just rude and rude and rude. But this is what a lot of your life looks like. This is what your life looks like. And you just spend your month just like this. And you're just spending and spending and spending. Thanks, guys, for not filling this back up. That was awesome. Really killed the illustration, guys. Great job, guys. That was fantastic. Way to test it. Way to test it, guys. This is great. There it is. There it is. Here it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. Something like that. Can we get this right, the third service? Because it's really awkward when I got to stand up here and pull the money out of the gun. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks, creative team. This is amazing. This is fantastic. I love you, and you're awesome, and I need to meet with you all on Monday, all right? Because it looks like this, and this, and this. Is it going to work? No, it doesn't work. Thanks for testing it out. But that's what your life looks like. Is you spend, 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 and spend. And at the end of the month, you got nothing. It's like this. It's like Luke chapter 14. Suppose one of you wants to build the tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost? To see if you have enough money? To see before you start building to make sure you got enough to finish it? to complete what it is. But many of us right now, we're swiping now to pay later. We're swiping now to get the new couch, the new this, and by the time it's paid off, you don't even want it anymore. This swipe now, hope to pay later, it will not fix life. So the solution to spending wisely, this isn't rocket science, but the solution to spending wisely is this, is to get on a strict budget. To get on a strict budget. I'm glad that this message is in February and not January. Because many of you set out at the new year to do it right, but it's not worked. You failed. It messed up. You didn't do it. You ruined it. It didn't work. But now it's February. It's February. And you've got a fresh start. A budget should reflect your priorities. In fact, I like to say it this way. A budget tells your money where to go. So it's Friday night and you want to go out to dinner and you want to take the family out. You don't ask your wife. You ask your budget. Your budget determines where to go. Your budget determines if you go on a vacation. Your budget determines if you buy the new couch. Your budget determines if you put the upgraded pool in the backyard. The budget determines whether you go on the cruise. It's your budget. So when you create a budget, your budget determines whether you can do it. So to spend wisely, you get on a strict budget and allow your budget to make your decisions. Why? Because every spending decision is a spiritual decision. It's a spiritual decision. You know what's helped me? This has been huge for me. This is what's helped me. That if it's important to me, you'll automate it. Can I tell you what's important to me? My mortgage, my tithe, my debt payoff, my investments, my kids' college fund, my 403B, my Roth IRA, my savings account. That's important to me. So you know what I do? If I wait till the end of the month to see if I have it, I will not put it into those things. So what I do every single month is I automate what's important to me. And if I automate what's important to me, guess what? I'll start to spend wisely. Are you hearing me, church? Secondly is this, is save diligently. Save diligently. I grew up in a home, my mom worked for herself, and so I grew up in a home where it was feast or famine. We either had a lot or we didn't have anything at all. We either could afford Christian school or we were begging friends and family to pay our Christian school bill. We had a lot of ups and a lot of downs. In Proverbs, Solomon says this in Proverbs 21. Solomon says this, that precious treasure and oil are in a man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours it, just spends it. A wise man saves, but a foolish man just spends everything that comes in. And this is where April and I are. We just got here about a year and a half ago, where we've actually got a place where we can actually do this solution, which is simply to save 10%. We're actually able to do it now. It took us, for some of you that have been married a little bit shorter than us, it took us 22 years to be able to do this. 22 years of marriage. But we can finally now say to you, it's actually closer to 14% now, that we're actually able to put 14% of our income away to save. 403B and Roth IRA, we're actually able to put into a savings account. And now we have, for us, now we have 3 months of reserve in our personal savings. Why? Because this was the goal in 2001 that we did not achieve until 2022. But it continued to be the goal. 20 years of hard work, fighting. Why do this? Why save? Since you can't predict the future, you plan for it now. We don't know when the next COVID-19 is gonna happen. We don't know when the world shutdown is gonna happen. We have no idea what's gonna happen in the election. And you think you knew, you thought you knew 4 years ago. We have no idea what's gonna happen. We have no idea what the economy is gonna be. We have no idea what the gas prices and the mortgage rate. You have no earthly idea. Some of you right now, you're waiting until they drop. You don't even know if they'll drop. But what you do know is this, you can actually deal with your future by saving what you can now. Is this helping anybody today, church? Takes discipline. So you spend wisely, you save diligently, and third and finally is simply this, is you sow generously. Sow generously. So you spend, you save, and you sow. The Bible compares the giving that we do to nonprofits and charities and to homeless and to missionaries and to churches. The Bible compares our giving to a seed. That the mark of every single believer when it comes to their spending habits is how many seeds are they planting. Your job is not to water. Your job is not to fertilize. Your job is not to take care of it day in and day out. Your job is to plant seeds. To plant seeds. And I'll tell you right now, this is where April and I are, and it's the best we've ever been. I think actually this is the season that's setting us up for grandparenting. That we've paid all of our debt off, besides our house. We owe no debt to anybody. All we have is a mortgage. And this is setting us up. If you want the life that nobody had, you gotta live like nobody has. So you sow generously. You get to the place where you give a lot away. C.S. Lewis said this, the true great theologian, not Snoop Dogg. I do not believe one can settle how much we ought to give. No one knows how much we should give. But I am afraid that the only safe rule is to give more away than you can spare. It's one of the things that I want the Adkins to be known for. It's one of the things that I want Wellspring to be known for. I want to be known as an Adkins family, and I want to be known as a Wellspring family, that we would be an extravagant, giving family. Why is that? Because you make a living by what you get, but you make a life by what you give. And I don't want to make a living, I want to make a life. I want this to mark my life. I want this to show if I'm great. I want this to define my purpose. And so what do you do if you're gonna sow generously? Is you become a percentage giver. That you find a percentage and you give that consistently. Listen, it's not equal giving, but it is equal sacrifice. It's not that everybody in this room and watching online would give the same amount, but it's that everybody in this room and watching online would give an amount. And as you give your amount, it's added to everybody else's amount, and then God blesses you. In fact, Paul said this to the church of Corinth because they were freaking out about this person makes more money than this person, and their land is more, and their vineyard is more. And Paul says, let me just fix it once and for all for everybody. Listen to me, it's not about income. He says, on the first day of every week, each one of you should set aside a sum of money in keeping with your own income, not somebody else's. Saving it up so that when it comes, time for collections, when we do an appeal, when a missionary needs money, when we're raising money to send to a hurricane relief. Listen, I have enough to be able to give. So the goal is this. This is the goal. The goal is simply that you would actually give 10% of your money. God blessed it. Well, I can't do that. There's no way I can give 10%. Start with 1%. Start with 2%. Start with the percentage. Tithers always say the same thing. Every tither that I talk to says the same thing. I don't know how he does it. Come on, tithers. But at the end of the month, I seem to have enough to make ends meet, so I'm gonna do it again the next month. And people that don't tithe always say the same thing. I never have enough. Struggling. I always don't have what I need. By the way, there's a correlation to both of those. People that give to the Lord always have enough, and people that don't give to the Lord never will ever have enough. And once you get to this place and you're giving your 10%, then you get here, and this is a blast. This is like grandparenting life right here. It's generosity. You give anything you have above the 10%, and you just give it away, and you give it away, and give it away. So once a year, we don't do this. You will not hear a message like this until next year. So this is my one time to talk to you. It's my one time to take you on a journey. It's my one time to convince you that God wants to bless you. He wants to bless you in your health, in your finances, in your resources, in your marriage, with your kids, whatever it is, he wants to bless you. So I'm asking you to step up to what we call the 90-day tithe challenge. I'm asking you for the next 90 days to test God. It's the only place you can test him. You pick a percentage and you test him. Why? Because the church needs money? No, we don't need your money. We don't need it. We don't need it. We're good. Now, if the tithers stop tithing for 4 months, we're gonna be in trouble. But we're good. We're fine. We're good. but you're not fully good. There are things that you've been praying for that you've not had breakthrough in, and it's required that we do this. So I'm gonna ask you, you can scan the QR code, we'll give you more information. There's a card in the seat back pocket in front of you. It says 90-day tithe challenge, you can fill that out. At the end of this service, you're gonna have an opportunity to go to the table, and we've got a book we wanna give to you. And you and I are gonna communicate every week for the next 90 days. I'm gonna send you an email, and you're gonna tell me how it's going. And you and I are gonna communicate. We're gonna communicate. You'll have my email, I'll have your email, and we'll just talk back and forth. And we'll be able to share what's working, what's not working, what you need, how can we pray together, and we'll journey together. We're gonna give you a book, we're gonna give you a magnet that you put on your refrigerator, and we're gonna take you on this journey. But it's not enough for me to just say it. Listen to these couple people in our church that took the challenge last year. Check it out.
Hey, I'm Jessica Muncie. If you don't know me, I'm Squire's wife.
Hi, my name is Austin, and I want to talk to you about the Tithe Challenge that they do here at church. I've dedicated to 10% of every paycheck for the entire challenge.
You know, we served in the church. We brought our son to church. We were there. Whenever the church was open, we were there. When it came to our finances, we were a little bit stingy. We were always givers, but we never tithed.
So before the start of the 90-day tithe challenge, you know, I was an occasional tither, and it wasn't anywhere close to 10%. I'd throw, you know, 20, 30, 40, sometimes $50 here and there. I was prioritizing a lot of things in my life. I was prioritizing my job. I was prioritizing money. I was prioritizing possessions.
There just didn't seem to be enough at the end of each paycheck. And so we thought, oh, we're okay, we're serving, we're doing this, we're doing that, but you know, God calls us to tithe. So we didn't for a long time, probably about 22 years. And at that time, we found a piece of land in Waimama that we wanted. On paper, there was no way we should have been able to do it, but God made a way. Before we built our home there, we already put our cows there. We were still in church, we were still serving, still giving, still not tithing, you know, because we had all these cows to feed now. And so we had one girl, her name is Ruby, I still have her. And so we decided that the first calf born to the best mama there would be our first fruit offering to God. When it was time to take all the calves to the sale,
the Hebrews and
all the other ones sold for like $1.20, $1.40 per pound. And this one that we said we were given to God to say thank you for what he had given to us came in at $1.80 per pound. That was an astronomical price. They all had the same daddy. He wasn't anything special, except that we dedicated him to the Lord. So when we got that sale paper and we saw what that calf went for, we knew at that time that we couldn't be tithing slackers anymore. The way that God honored what we had offered to him required us to become full-on tithers.
I was on my way to go pick up my kids to go to my son's football game, and I had a lady pull out in front of me while I was doing about 55, 60, and actually rolled my truck twice in the middle of 301. I was out of work for 3 months with no pay. I've always been the worker. I've always been up at 4:30 in the morning, not home till after it gets dark, and to grow the relationships that I got to grow with my kids in those 3 months, you know, I wouldn't trade that for the world. I had 10 grand to last me 3.5 months. So, you know, and I ended up having money left over when I went back to work. So, you know, you may think you know what you need. I thought I did, but, you know, God definitely showed me what I needed to change and what I needed to do differently in my life. And all of that, he protected me from all of that before I even sent the first paycheck. Just the acknowledgement that, okay, I'm gonna do this. And, you know, like clockwork, he did it with no questions asked. I'm definitely a lot more happy with my life. And it all started when I was just like, you know what? Let's see what happens. 10%? Okay, I'll give 10%.
Come on, isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? So we want you to join. We want you to be blessed, like both of those families were blessed as well. So there's, again, QR code. There's this card in the seat back pocket in front of you. You can go to the table on your way out and to join in, and we'll journey together. We're not checking up on it. If you're like, oh my goodness, you're gonna check up. No, we're not checking up on anything. It's between you and the Lord. Let me give you two last things and I'm done. Hebrews chapter 13 says this: keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, never will I leave you and never will I forsake you. Listen, when I start to lack satisfaction in God, I usually start pursuing satisfaction in stuff. And if you're pursuing satisfaction in stuff, it's probably eliminating you to be fully in love with God. So God has this moment, Jesus has this moment in Luke chapter 16, verse 16 says this: and he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man, it yielded an abundant wealth. He thought to himself, what shall I do? God's blessed me. By the way, there's nothing greater than that, where God is just blessing you and you have no place to store all the blessings. I have no account and I've maxed out my Roth IRA and I've got no more money to put, I've got all this money to put in savings and I don't know what to do and God's blessing me. There's nothing better than that. And that's my prayer for you, is that everybody in this room would get here. Then he said, and this is the mega moment. Then he said, I know what I'll do. I know what I'll do with all this increase. I'll tear down my barns and I'll make bigger ones. And there I'll store my surplus of grain. What is he thinking about? Just himself. Notice that nowhere in this passage does God say that having wealth or being rich is bad. Never one time does he say that it's wrong. In fact, it's the opposite. God blessed him with this. But the moment he realized that the man was not using it for God's glory, and then I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take it easy. You've worked hard. Eat, drink, be merry. God's gonna have something to say. But God said to him, you're a friggin' fool. Dummy. You have no idea that it's me that's been blessing you. This very night, your life's gonna be taken from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? Then we'll see what happens. Then we'll see. And listen how it ends. This is violent. This is how it will be for whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God. Wellspring, listen to me. I want you to spend wisely. I want you to save diligently. I want you to sow generously. I want it for you. But you gotta understand that God owns everything. That you are simply a manager, a steward of what he's given to you. And whatever you do with the little that you have, steward it well. He promises you. It's in his word. You've tested him. You've stewarded the little well. He will bless you with more. I'd love to pray for you. With your heads bowed, eyes closed, nobody looking around. Father, I thank you for every single person within the sound of my voice. God, I don't know what they're going through. I don't know what their struggles are. I don't know what their financial situation is, but God, I know that you see them. And God, I thank you that no matter what we go through, your word says that you'll never leave us and you'll never forsake us. I thank you that you're for us. God, I thank you that your promises are yes and amen. God, I thank you that no matter what we go through, I thank you that you are the solution. You have the solution, or you will be the solution. Father, I thank you today that you see every single person in this room, those watching online. You see their bank account. You see their determination and dedication. You see what they're going through. You see their focus. You've seen what they've tried to do. And there are some in this room, Father, they're waking up for the very first time right now, realizing maybe the reason why they've not been blessed is simply because they've not stewarded what they've had the best way. So I'd love to pray for you. How about asking you to commit? I'm just asking you a question, this simple question. As I was preaching, as I was sharing with you, how many of you in this room by the raising of your right hand said, you know what, it's probably something I should consider when it comes to putting God first in my finances. How many of you would say that? Would you just lift your hand? I'd love to pray for you, just all over this room. I need to put God first in my finances. Lift it up real tall. I see. I just want to be able to see you through the dark. I'm with you. I'm with you. It's me too. So leave them up. I want to pray for you specifically, those hands that are up. Father, right now, I pray for every single hand that's being raised. And God, there are hands being raised, and there are people that have a lot in their bank account. There are hands being raised, and there are people that do not have a lot. There are people in this room that they're raising their hand, and they're hearing this for the very first time. Father, there are people raising their hand and realizing, I've lost it for a few years, but I'm ready to get back in. So Father, right now, I thank you that you see them. These are your sons, and these are your daughters. And Father, this hand in the air is a faith commitment to you. They're pushing all of their chips to the table, saying, God, I'm believing in you, I'm trusting you, but God, if I'm gonna do this, I need you to show up. And so God, I ask you to do what only you can do. Give increase to where faith is presented. May you be blessed as you bless your sons and daughters. In Jesus' name. And everybody said, hey, come on, if you love Jesus, would you give him a round of applause? Come on.